I'm going to give you a quick demo of the object detection project. Uh, so basically we can train models for the server, for the web, for the iOS and the Android. And as you see, there are different folders here for that: TF model, uh, YOLO, which will be also for iOS, and the TensorFlow has the Android as well. We have an annotation tool, which allows us to annotate, draw bounding boxes around objects. Some outputs for different projects are shown here. For example, for VMS, as you can see, we have the YOLO model created, the Turi model, and TensorFlow model as well. Now, the starting point is the launcher. Let's say it's a step-by-step demonstration. Basically, before I start, I should mention there's a config file where the name of the project, the different classes of objects, location of annotations, and all have to be filled out. And then you can go through this basically by reading the configuration file, reading the variables from the configuration file, setting all the stuff that are necessary. Then you can load the data from the Label Studio, the annotation files, creating the right folder structures for different projects for the YOLO and Turi. You can see if the annotations have been successfully done. Here are some examples. Right, looks like they're okay. You can go ahead and train a new YOLO model. Here you can choose to start from scratch by setting the resume to false, or if you want to retrain a model for more epochs, you can set this to true, and it will basically start from the last checkpoint and will continue from there. So here, for example, when you start from scratch, it gives you some messages starting the YOLO, and I'm doing it for one epoch now here, so approximately it takes 1 minute. So it will update this number over time. Here is one example, just training for one epoch, and then so it spits out a message that it was done successfully. Then you can test the model if you have a trained model. I have a trained model already, so I'm testing it here. As you can see, it goes through the images one by one. So for example, this image took 0.12 seconds on the GPU, which is quite fast. And then you can see the output of the model, which is very good on this example. Also, it tells you the evaluation scores. So score on these models were very good, and it also tells you how fast the model is. So it took around 39.2 milliseconds for basically for each image of size 220 by 320 pixels. We can train the 2D model for the iOS. So that model was for the server. For the iOS, basically you can say how many iterations you want to train the model, and then just hit the button here. It goes through that. It shows you basically iteration by iteration the loss, how long that iteration took, and basically it goes through all the images multiple times. So this takes a couple of hours, and once you're done, you can go ahead and test the 2D model. So I've tested this already. As you can see, this is done very well. By the way, also you can, after training, at the end of the training process here, it also compresses the model and makes it smaller. So it would be basically easier to load it on the edge device. Then you can also train the model for TensorFlow devices, for Android devices. Here, as above, you can continue training a model, resume, or you can start afresh a new model. And if you hit this cell, then it goes through all the process and starts training the model. So just take you. Yeah, so this is steps. It takes a while for this model to be loaded. So start to create. So here actually, here as you see, the model has been trained, and so yeah, so at the end of this part, it's successfully trained the TF model. You can also see the loss function, the loss is going down, and so on. Here, for example, you see this one. It goes step by step, and you can see the model training. After that, it creates the inference graphs and TensorFlow light model, protobuf models, and all that are necessary for the creating the app, basically. Here you see we successfully created a tensor inference graph, TensorFlow protobuf model. From there it creates the TF Lite model, and that's it. And eventually we should be able to take this and then just export it to Android devices. At the end you can also test the model, and here you can see that this Android model has been also created and trained successfully, done with visualization. Now let me show you quickly the annotation tool. So the annotation tool basically is part of the system. You can go ahead and create a config file. Basically, this config file will be automatically generated using the UI, and then it will be loaded here, right? Basically, which then using this configuration, which tells basically this part tells which object classes you want to annotate. Okay, and then because this tool allows you to draw bounding boxes and the polygons, that config file will have bounding box instead of polygon. But just for now, as a demo, let's say I want to annotate this image and I want to draw polygons. Let's say we actually do bounding boxes just for just demonstration, as I said. So let's say there's an airplane here, and then you can, let's say if you want to draw a polygon again, and then you just submit this and you go to the next image, and so on and so forth. And then right now we're working on integrating the UI either in the annotation tool or having an annotation tool and calling having a UI and calling the annotation tool from the UI. We're still working on that. And we have a bunch of web pages that shows Confluence pages for the help and documentation. You can see here the installation tool and all that. And then as for the UI, we are still working on that. But to give you an idea, this is how it will look like eventually. There will be a login page. Then the user will see the number, basically the different projects and the status of different projects. For example, the ones that are completed, pending, how long it takes for the ones that are running to finish. And if you want to train a new one, you click on this button, and then you go through a sequence of steps. Let's say if you want to train a new data set, you select the data set, select which classes of objects you want to train. You upload the images and their annotations, and then you choose which type of model you want to train. And once you're done, then you press submit, and then the submit button will basically create a config file, and then after that it will basically call one of these functionalities, whichever that you like. You can choose to have more than one, and then some of these cells will be automatically run through the AI, and output will be in the folder that you want. You can also have that folder, the output, in the AWS as well, or you can download the model through the UI if you want. We're still working to complete this part, but for now, just to show you a glimpse of how it will look like, this is one page, the login page, and this is the status of the projects, basically. But this part is still ongoing to basically the UI to wrap everything around it and finish the work. That's about it. Thank you very much.